All right, boys and girls, guess what we got today? We have a 1938 D18. 1938. Let that sink in. Pre-war D18 with rear X bracing. That's how far back it goes. I'm not giving you the finger. It goes that far back. Got that? 1938 D18 with a wide neck and a rear X bracing. This is a pretty rare bird. This is a transitional period because then in early 1939, they moved to the skinny neck, the 1 11/16 inch neck from this 1 3/4 inch neck. And the bridge spacing went down. Quite a few things changed, but prior to this guitar, prior to a couple of guitars before this one, you had a forward X brace. And guess what? I've got a forward X brace 38 coming in next week. No, a couple weeks. Yeah, a couple weeks. So we're going to have both the forward X and a rear X 1938 D18. It's going to be really interesting to check that out. All right, let's take a look at this guitar. Find out what kind of condition it's in, because the first thing you notice is it didn't have any strings on it. And I'm not sure exactly why that is, but I took one really quick look at it, and here's what I saw, and here's what you also see too. Let's go over here. Oh no, look at this. The bridge has been shaved. The bridge has been shaved, and there's absolutely no saddle left on this thing. And you can tell immediately it's been shaved because they didn't get the wings back in, and they didn't. I just don't understand why people do this. Shave the bridge, and then they don't make any attempt whatsoever to countersink those holes, fill that back up. And so, anyway, we've got a non-standard, well, it is the stock bridge, but being shaved, we're going to have to do something about that. Okay, let's get back to this. I was having trouble with the charger on the GoPro, and I had to it just wasn't charging, so I had to turn this off from anyway. You don't care about that. Here is a Stu-Mac vintage replica bridge, and I just wanted to show you the difference in height between these two so that you can get a feel for how far shaved that is. And there you go. I mean, you can clearly see the difference in height there, and that sort of thing. And the trouble is the Stu-Mac bridge is pretty good, but it's not quite vintage spec. And there was a lot of talk about this on the Martin Guitar Forum, and everybody was like, I wouldn't put that on anything older than the 1970s. And I thought, well, it's not that bad, you know. I would use it. But this is a 1938 D18, and so we need to have the most proper bridge that is possible to put on this guitar. I think with a little reshaping, this could be pretty good. The deal is it's a little flat top right here. Let me grab this other bridge. Hang on. Okay, we're back. This is a T.J. Thompson bridge. See? $400 for this thing. Which I'm like, golly, man, I got to raise my prices. And, I thought this was the hunky-dory. I thought this should be a really good copy. But according to the experts on the Martin Guitar Forum, there's a couple things wrong with this bridge, too. One of the things wrong with that, I sure don't see it on this one. The slot up here evidently is routed parallel to the base of the bridge. Since the bridge has a curved top and is higher over here than it is over here, the slot needs to be cut parallel to the top of the bridge. So what that means is that the exit right here should be very even, and this one might be just a tad man, I don't know. It looks even to me. Critics of this bridge, critics of this bridge, and I want to know their qualifications sometimes, 'cause, I mean, this is T.J. Thompson. Great respect. Critics of this bridge say that the slot's a little bit too deep and the run out goes a little bit too far over here. I do not have an actual vintage bridge, and this one should be good because I don't think that slot's been cut down. I think it was just shaved off the top, but I don't know. I will say that the other 1938 that's coming in has the stock bridge. And I'm waiting for that guitar to come in so that I can take a good look at that bridge and a good look at the TJ bridge and a good look at the StewMac bridge. And keeping in mind that in 1938, these bridges were handmade. So, there's going to be some variations in it. I think the C.J. Thompson looks great. It looks very well proportioned. It looks very vintage to me. It would probably fool me if it was beat up a little bit because, 1938 is going to have a little bit of, wear and a little bit of stuff, a little scuffing going on. But, it looks good to me. There's a lot of discussion about whether the holes are staggered, so are they equal distance or are they equal center to center. I think John Arnold said they were equal center to center on the ones that he's measured. And again, I don't know how they were made in 1938. I don't know. I don't think they had a single 6 drill bit at a time sort of thing. And, I don't know. We're not going to necessarily immediately slap this T.J. Thompson on. It's a great looking bridge. I kind of want to have my hand at making one myself and see if I can match this. See if I can match one that Jim Baggett will look at and say, man, I'm not sure about that one. I don't know, But let's compare it to this one, to the StewMac bridge. The StewMac, God, this has turned out to be a bridge dissertation, but the StewMac bridge has a slightly different curve across the top right here. It's flat on top, and then it starts its curve over here. The Thompson bridge starts to curve almost immediately after the pins, and you can see that it's curved just a little bit more. Again, I don't think that's a big deal because I can very easily come in here and scrape this in and shape it, shave it where I want to, and I just would so much rather have a little bit more wood to scrape with than not enough wood. Let's get the calipers out here. Let's measure a couple of things. So anyway, but on this 38, we're going to have to do something about that bridge. And so I thought, well, what happens if I string it up? I mean, can I string it up and play it while I'm waiting? Because I haven't got to play it. So I run a straight edge down here, and it falls below. I mean, it's halfway below this shaved bridge. So let's come over here and see if we can get this. Here it is coming down the fingerboard, okay? And this is just a rough and ready check for a neck crochet. It is not, it's not my yardstick at all. But if you look down here, you can see that thing bumping in halfway down that bridge. So it's got to have a neck crochet, and there's no way, there's no way I'm doing a neck crochet on this bridge. So it's going to have the correct full height bridge. Then I reset the neck. I think it's going to be months before I actually get to play this guitar. I've got to wait for the other one to come in. Got to look at that bridge. Got to decide on the bridge issue. I might take this bridge off while I'm waiting. I don't know. So, got to deal with the bridge. Got to deal with the neck reset. So that's two things it needs. Looks to me like the nut is original. And looking over here, I don't see the finish broken. There's no shims under it. It's ivory. The finish looks really good over here. I hope that I've got enough room when I put new frets in that I don't have to mess with that ivory nut, with that stock. I hope we can keep that nut. I really do. Yeah, just for fun. I mean, just for the originality's sake and all that. And I hope the slots are not too low. If they are too low, I'm going to be inclined, rather than to break it off and everything, I'm going to be inclined to just make those slots deeper and glue in some pieces of mammoth ivory, which I should have over there. I might even have yeah, mammoth ivory. Glue those into the slots right here and then recut the slots. So at least we get to keep the original knot. We don't get to break the finish and that kind of thing. I think that'd be an acceptable fix. T.J. Thompson says, quoted one time, you know, you always got to balance the structural integrity versus the originality of the piece. And sometimes you got to fix it and it's going to hurt the originality. But I think a fair trade-off would be to fill the slots in this and then recut the slots, because I think they're going to be too deep when I replace the frets. And I'm going to need to replace the frets because these have quite a bit of wear in them. First 3, 4, 5, 7, I mean, clear up into here, and they're low. I mean, I can tell by looking at them. Let's go up here because these are probably maybe undisturbed. Maybe. 30 thousandths of an inch, and I think they've probably been shaved the whole way. Unless these are 30. Yeah, these frets are 30 thousandths of an inch high, and I'm going to use 4380 fret wire. So the new ones are going to be 43 thousandths of an inch tall, which, you know, that's 25%. Could be a lot better frets. I think these frets have been dressed down. I'm sure, you know, 1938, you know. I don't think they're the original frets because I can see a little bit of air gap under. I just don't think they're original frets. It would be unbelievable if these were the original frets from 1938. That would be unbelievable. They got to come out though, you know. They're too low. Let's see what the fingerboard looks like here. Yeah, no problem. It's got a back bow when it's at rest. It's at least 10 thousandths, maybe 12 thousandths of an inch pride right here. So the fingerboard looks really good. Not gonna have to do any fingerboard shaving, nothing like that. Just frets. Probably do them all. I might do the 15 and leave these upper frets up in here because just in case they're original. It'd be fun to leave those up there. Nobody's going to play up there. We could do 15 frets. Pre-war. Here's something. If you don't know, notice the dots are graduated as they go down the neck. That's kind of cool. You know, that's just one of the things where you can spot a 1938 from across the room. The dots are graduated. It's original pick guard. We're going to take a look inside of it here in just a second. So as soon as I get done with my neck thing, I'll give you the neck specs real quick. I measured this neck. It's in some of my databases. And what was interesting to this is comparing this neck to the 1937 Authentic, the D18 1937 Authentic that I did a neck shave on. And this neck is pretty chunky. Up here, it's a little bit chunkier, a little bit thicker than my shaved neck, but the stock D18 1937 Authentic was about 25% fatter up in here. So I was correct in that it was way fatter than any vintage D18 that I've ever measured. And I thought this one was very typical of pre-war D18s that I've handled. I've handled, you know, a few of them. And I thought, man, this neck's, you know, very typical. It's a chunky neck, but it has a really good V right back here. And I might come back in and work on my 37 Authentic a little bit more and copy this V a little bit more. I think this V is a little bit more aggressive than what I cut, and I would like to match this because it feels really good. The V helps make the neck feel thinner because your thumb comes in rather than being held out. And so this is a great neck. It's not been refinished. It's got a little bit of wear on the back, but terrifically good neck. I don't know if the tuners are original or not. I'm not that great on tuners because they change so much. They look right, you know. And you guys can correct me and tell me if they're right or not. But they are what they are. I think they're original. And we've got some stuff going on the Martin Guitar Forum where people are posting tuners with examples of them. So I'm going to try to catch up on my tuners a little bit. I don't really care about tuners that much, other than the fact that if I'm paying a top dollar price for this guitar or something, yeah, you want to know if they're original. But, you know, I'm not that guy. I'm a player. So I'm just giving you, I am not your top-notch pre-war authority. No way. Jim Baggett, John Arnold, Steve Kovacic, guys like that, you know. TJ, those guys are more the authorities. I'm just telling you what I know, and I'm looking more at the structural stuff on this guitar. These tuners look good. They look original-ish. So if they're not the original, they are appropriate tuners. I don't see any other marks under there. I haven't taken one off yet, but you know, like I said, the neck looks great. Nothing's been refinished. This looks original finish. Lots of checking, nothing shiny, nothing looks weird. It's just that bridge shaving. Man, if they wouldn't have shaved the bridge. But, you know, I understand somebody at some time was trying to cut costs, and they said, just shave the bridge down. You don't have to do a neck reset. And now I got to replace the bridge, which, had they just done a neck reset in the first place, it's like one of the safest things you can do to a guitar. There's no damage. It's just a matter of taking the neck off, re-angling, and put it back on. It really, honestly, is one of the safest things that I did, as opposed to now having to break a glue bond between this bridge and this top. It's just, on a vintage guitar, it's just, man, that's one of my least favorite things to do. So if you ever get in this situation, I strongly advise you just do a neck reset and don't shave the bridge. The only time I would shave a bridge is if it's one of the really fat ones that come primarily, and I would never do that on a vintage guitar, never, ever, ever. But on a modern guitar where they have these really, really fat 0.4 inch thick bridges, I would shave that down to a pre-war height of about 320, 340. I would not go any lower. This bridge is probably 240, I'm guessing. Let's see what we get. We'll measure. I haven't measured it yet. We're back to the bridges now, okay? 225. 225, 225. So they didn't even get, you know, they just shaved it straight across the top. And I think they probably must have cut that saddle slot deeper, because that looks like a wider slot than this one. So let's take TJ's bridge. And I got to pull it off of here. Not sure how he's got it stuck on there. There we go. Oh, that's good. Double stick tape. Yeah, nice. I knew TJ wouldn't steer us too long, you know. So let's see how thick his bridge is here. On the bass side, 330, 328. So yeah, 330 and 285. I mean, that's perfect. That's what I have always. That's always been my goal when making bridges that are pre-warish looking. Is I've always shot for 320 and 280. That's what he's got here. So that's great. All right, so we're back to bridges. Let's see what we got here. What we want to look at is the wings. How thick are the wings on the bass side? I shoot, on my bridges, I shoot for about 150 on the bass side and about 125 on the treble side. I'm not duplicating. When I do a 70s bridge, for instance, I'm not duplicating a pre-war exactly. And I go for a little bit more depth on the bass side, a little less on the treble, so that it balances everything out. Because you're narrower, shorter, you're smaller on this side and bigger on this side. And if the wings are the same, then the scallop, the little cut looks funny. And you can see, it doesn't look funny, but you can see it here. There's a deeper cut here. And there's a shallower cut over here. So his wings are probably going to be about the same. I make this one a little bit thinner and this one a little bit thicker so that the cut balances out. And that's just my deal. And I also like to have a little bit more strength on the base side. So I do my wings a little bit different from a pre-war, but I'm very aware of that. I'm not trying to necessarily duplicate a pre-war bridge. So this ought to be 125, and it's 125 exactly. And he's got 125 over here. So his wings are the same, 125 on both sides. 320, 280, 125, 125. Here's the Stumac bridge. Well, first thing we got to do is find out where the base string lines up. So I measure in the same spot. Put some work there. Stumac is going to be thicker. I can tell you that because I know. And then this one is 355. So it's a little bit thicker than TJ's bridge, which is fine because you could shave it down if you wanted to, you know. And over on this side, it's 310. And that is not out of vintage specs. It's a little bit on the thicker side, but it's not obscenely so, you know. I've seen some bridges, you know, well, 400.4 would be obscenely thick. So let's see what our wings are over here on the Stumac bridge. And the wings are thin at 110 and 110. So the wings are a little bit thin. And that's too bad because you can't shave that down. So let's look at the depth here. Let's look at the widths now. We're going to look at this width. We're going to look at this width. We're going to look at this width. And then we're going to go to the original here. We're looking at right exactly 1 inch. Little bit. Now there it is. 1 inch. So 1 inch wide. TJ's bridge. 110. 110, little bit over 1 inch. The actual pre-war, 110. Good job, TJ. Oh, yeah, look at this. But it's actually 0.95 on the base side. So that just goes to show you that the actual pre-war bridge is not perfectly, absolutely, totally 100% symmetrical, you know. I'm getting 1 inch over here, and I have to move the calipers to do this. I'm getting 110 over here. See? And it's wobbling. 95 over here. So your pre-war bridge is not perfectly symmetrical. I'm assuming that's the original bridge. I will find out more after I get it off, but I am assuming that is the original bridge. Somebody didn't replace the bridge and then shave down that, you know. Well, I'll know for sure when I get it off. Fortunately, it's a little loose. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little loose. So that's going to make it easier to get some little bit of moisture in there and get that hide glue loosened up. Let's see how wide they are. Again, I assume this is the original bridge. And right in the middle, we're looking at 1.4 exactly. Stumac is 1.375, 25 thousandths less. TJ's bridge, 1.85, 1.385, yeah, 1.385. So the Stumac one is the thinnest front to rear. TJ's is 10 thousandths of an inch difference. And this bridge is 25 thousandths of an inch. 25 and 15 thousandths of an inch difference. This bridge is a little bit wider. So you can see right away that this bridge, the Stumac bridge, if I was to just slap it on there, we're going to have, it's not going to cover the footprint. TJ's bridge is going to cover it really well. Pretty good. The wings are going to cover. He's got that made. TJ's bridge would be a good replacement. I mean, I personally would throw TJ's bridge on here, but I'm going to see if I can make one just like it. You know, it's just nice. I'm sure he's using a CNC to get this consistent and everything. Yeah. So let's see what his curve looks like going off the top here. Let's lay a straight edge over the top here. I'm going to hold it with my thumb. So what you're looking at is the curve of the pins going off of there. I'm sorry. You're looking at the curve as it comes off of the pinholes. I think we ought to be able to see that. Here's the Stu-Mac bridge. Gosh, it's not that bad, you know. You could very easily take a scraper, smooth that off just a tiny bit. Here's on the back of the bridge. TJ's bridge is the curve comes over, and then you have this flat spot on the back right here. And his flat spot is pretty even. I'll tell you who's in Collings. I had a Collings Clarence White, the Brazilian Adirondack, 1992. You know, those were very special guitars. And I got to looking at it, and I realized that that flat spot was just a little bit thicker at the bass side, so it tapered as the bridge tapered. And I asked Steve McCreary one time, I said, was that intentional, or was that how it happened? And he said, nothing is not intentional at Collings. I thought that was a good answer, you know. And this one looks like it's a little bit thicker too. Like it's just a little bit thicker, that flat spot. A little bit thicker as it comes up to the bass side. And, you know, I think that goes good with the contours of the bridge and everything. I think I have been shaving mine round all the way over, so there's no flat spot. Because I've seen 50s and 40s and things like that where they're curved all the way down. And again, I don't know. I don't know if that's always the way it was done or not. Here's Stu-Mac's bridge. It's got that flat spot. Let's look at them together here. Let's look at them together on those flat spots. And let's go this way so you get a different angle. You know, I don't think the Stu-Mac bridge is all that bad. I could modify that just a little bit. And like I said, they give you enough wood to work with. I'd use them. Maybe not on a 1938 when I'm standing here with TJ's bridge in my hand. But I think it's not a bad bridge. Certainly not worth some of the critique on the Martin form. So we'll put this back on here. I've been out blowing leaves around. So we're going to have a new bridge. I'm not going to do anything until I get the other 1938 in. And have a second bridge to look at. And then we're going to make this work. New bridge, neck reset, frets. That's about it. And that's not bad for a 1938 D18, you know? Golly. Oh, it's going to need pins too, but that's antique acoustic, you know? So I'm looking forward to getting this going. Let's put a light inside this and let's take a look inside. I think we've already seen this guitar on the inside, but it never hurts to look again, does it? Is there anybody here that does not want to see the inside of a 1938 D18? You can raise your hand, okay? You guys can leave. Go watch somebody else's video. The rest of us, we're going to take a look inside this 1938 Rear X D18. What do you want to look for when we get in here? No popsicle brace. Take a look at that and note that there's no cracks alongside the fingerboard. I tell you, I cannot think of a single guitar without a popsicle brace that has fingerboard cracks. I'm sure there's some out there. All the cracks that I've seen on the side of the fingerboard come from guitars that have popsicle braces. If you watch the video on the 1942 D18 that I have, it has a popsicle brace and it has fingerboard cracks. For a while there, I was getting quite a few 50s and 40s Martins in, you know, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. 3/4 of them, fingerboard cracks. So, I don't know what the deal is, but I will tell you that the popsicle brace does not stop those cracks from happening. And I don't know if not having a popsicle brace, does it flex more? I just don't know. I don't know. So we're going to go inside. Let's take a look at this. Look at the location of the X brace. It's not far. Darn near 2 inches, you know. 7/8. 1 7/8 is what I'm getting with my finger, which is terrible. Look at the location of that. Look at the cleanness in here. Look at the bridge plate. Look at the wear on the bridge plate, because this should have had non-slotted pins most of the time. Take a look at the wear on the bridge plate. Look for any glue that might indicate repairs. Look for any gaps on the bracing where maybe there's a loose brace. I will go in here and probe, look for loose braces real quick before I even do anything else. We'll find loose braces. On the whole, this guitar is really good condition. Really good for 1938. All right, here we go. Inside the guitar. First of all, there's a pick guard. Let's get a good look at that pick guard. You just cannot match that with any modern stuff. I've got some stuff that looks close, but nothing like that. Here we go. There's a bridge. Here we go. Okay, so here's your X brace. Way back there. Take a look at how the X brace, how the X brace comes off of the X. It doesn't come off whoom in an immediate scallop. It goes for a little bit like that, you know, and then curves. That degree of fall away off the X determines a lot how much bass the guitar has. Take a look at, I have another video on this, an inside look. And my D18 1939 Authentic comes off the X a lot faster than any of the vintage guitars. Let's go back in. Popsicle brace area. And there's no cracks right there. This is where your cracks would show up. You do have a center seam right there, but that's not a big deal. Super clean, golly. Look this way. There's my light. All right. Here's our look. So we have a 1938 D18 here. It's in actually really pretty good condition. Needs a new bridge, needs a neck reset, needs 15 frets, needs pins. That's all it needs. No cracks, no major cracks. Got a little bit of a top seam split here where it dried up at one point, but it's not. I'm going to be able to close that up with humidity, and I will stick some glue in there. Not going to fill it with anything, no cleats, no nothing. You got to really look at it, and not that bad at all. That's dryness. Yeah, we'll take care of that. Everything else is great on this guitar. Doesn't even have that much wear on it, you know. I believe this is a one-owner guitar, too. I think it came from the grandson, if I remember the story right. And got some pits up here in the fingerboard. We're not going to worry one bit about that. I would not even think of touching those. That's because it's low frets and he probably has fingernails. And what a great guitar. Looking forward to getting this one going, but it's a 1938. And we are not going to rush this. There's no way I'm going to rush this. When I take that bridge off, for instance, I'm going to take some water and I'm going to put the water up in there. And I'm going to let it soak to loosen up that hide glue before I put any heat on it, anything. You know, super, super cautious. If it takes me all day to get that bridge off, then that's what it takes. We're going to be real careful not to pull any wood up. Not too much sheet on it in order. We don't want to cause any finish damage. We want to let that water work. Let the water soften up the hide glue, hot hide glue, as best as possible. And just move very, very carefully, very, very cautiously on this 1938 D18 with rear X bracing. This is where, you know, I go pretty fast on 70s and I live loose and dangerously. But when it comes to pre-wars like this, it's the other way around. You move so slowly and cautiously, it's ridiculous. But I am very much looking forward to getting this guitar playing. And like I said, I'm going to get my 37 authentic and see if I can copy this neck a little bit better. I cut my 37 authentic just a little bit thinner, like maybe 10,000ths of an inch, which not much up in here. And what I want to do is I want to study this V, because this has got a great V on it. I think I could V my 37, my authentic, a little bit more than make it more like this one. This is terrific neck. Terrific. Got a pretty good dent right up here where somebody set it down hard, but that's not a big deal. All right. Hope you enjoyed taking a look at 1938 D18. I know I do. This is the real deal. This is not the authentic. This is the real deal here, boys and girls. All right. I'm done talking about it. We'll get to hear it in a couple months. And then we'll also take a look at the other 1938 that's coming in that's got the forward X bracing and compare the neck on that. So I'm not going to touch my 37A. I'm not going to touch it until I get the other 38 in here and I get a look at both necks and get a composite of those, you know, because it might be a lot different. But this has got a really good neck on it, and so it's worth copying. But it'll be interesting to get the other 37 and 38 in here. Rear X, forward X. You'll see a great big difference in the bridge plate, and hopefully the bridge will be original and we can use it as a model for this one. See you later.